Welcome to something to talk about.
Hi, welcome to Something to Talk About. My name is Taco, and I got one of them. Let's talk about the differences for you. So if you don't know who I am and why I'm yelling at you, I cover A Song of Ice and Fire characters. Usually this is when I cover somebody who is in the books and in the show, and definitely spoilers for the books and the show. That show is Game of Thrones, and the books are the A Song of Ice and Fire books. So yeah, going to take a character who was in both of them, discuss them, starting with kind of a broad generalization of who the Burned Men are, because this guy's from the Vale of Arryn. He is a mountain clansman. And then I'm going to talk about his book or show counterpart, and then his book counterpart, and then differences, and a really interesting theory. Who am I talking about? Timett, son of Timett. So I know I covered Shaga not too long ago, but this was a request from I Forgot My Name to cover Timett. And I was looking at Timett because, you know, I want to do requests. And thanks for the request, by the way. I'll thank you again at the end of it. And I was like, yeah, but I already covered Shaga. So I looked in. Shaga's different enough. There is actually a lot of, you know, they have a lot of similarities, and I'm going to be saying the name Shaga a lot in here. But that's fine. Like, if you watch the Shaga one right after this, you'll see I cover pretty much the exact same scenes. And in fact, in the show, they give one of Shaga's scenes to Timett, or at least his part in that to Timett. But it's fine. Timett's interesting enough because I get to talk about the Burned Men, and then also a theory about Timett, which kind of makes this all worth it. So yeah, let's just jump right into it, and we're talking about the Burned Men. The Burned Men are one of the mountain clans in the Vale of Arryn. Burned Men derive their name from a coming-of-age ceremony in which they mutilate themselves by burning off a body part of their choosing, usually a finger or nipple. Youch! The more important body part burned, the more prestige the warrior gets. I don't know what that makes sense. Oh, you mutilated yourself more. You're a sergeant. Like, wait, what? Just the crazy you are, the more power you get? That's crazy. I guess it's like you're proving your loyalty to the clan. I don't understand that. I don't really have a lot of clan loyalty. That came out wrong. Yeah, I don't know. If I was part of any society where they're like, hey, prove you're one of us. Like, okay, how? Like, I'll pay taxes if that works. It's like, no, burn off your nipple. I'd be like, yeah, get effed. Not doing that. Bye. I'm gonna go hang out with the painted dogs. Painted dogs. So anyways, yeah. The more prestige a body part, or the more important the body part, the more prestige the warrior gains. They are feared by other clans because of their practice. Their red hands are their chiefs of the Burned Men. So I'm going to be talking about how Timett is a red man or red hand. So think of that as like a war chief, like a red hand is somebody who's kind of important. The Burned Men are seemingly an offshoot of the painted dogs, who branched off in the years after the Dance of the Dragons. They were said to have worshipped a fire witch, sending their boys to bring her gifts. The risk of the flames of her dragon to prove their manhood. Yeah, Maester Galadin suggests that this was Nettles and Sheep Stealer. Crazy. You know what? Most likely, we don't really find out what happens to Nettles and Sheep Stealer. She could have gone to the Mountains of the Vale very easily and just like hung out there until she died. There's nothing saying that that's not a possibility. The Burned Men carried off the last daughter of Alys Arryn and Sir Elys Waynwood on their way to marry a Bracken. So, on her way to marry a Bracken. Anyways, we'll get to that. I only had that in there because we'll get to it later, way later. So let's talk about the show. So the show, Timett, son of Timett. In the television adaptation Game of Thrones, Timett is portrayed by Tobias Winter. Timett, son of Timett, is the leader of the Burned Men in this. He is a large and fierce young man with one eye. Despite his youth, his savagery and success in battle have seen him rise amongst the hill tribes. Tyrion is captured by Shaga and the Stone Crows. While traversing the Vale, Tyrion offers an alliance up to the hill tribes to fight for House Lannister in exchange for weaponry, gold, and autonomy from the Eyrie. I give you this. What is this? The Vale. Timett agrees to the alliance after the clans, by other clans, including Cello, the Black Ears, the Moon Brothers, and the Painted Dogs. I'm not going to yell Painted Dogs every time they say Painted Dogs. Timett is presented to Tywin by Tyrion. Tywin accepts the alliance and Shaga's insistence that they fight alongside Tyrion on the battlefield. The Burn Men take part in the Battle of the Green Fork, on the Green Fork. They then exchange in post-battle looting. Timett and his men escort Tyrion to King's Landing, where he becomes acting hand of the king on behalf of Tywin. Yeah, Tyrion goes to King's Landing and becomes acting hand. So now we're getting into season 2. After Tyrion discovers that Pycelle is spying for Cersei, Timett and Bronn accompany him to confront Pycelle. I'm skipping over that whole spy triangle trap. We'll get into it for the book section, but yeah, that Tyrion does where he's tells one guy one thing and tells one guy the other thing, and then puts the other thing in one note and sees who he hears from, and whichever Cersei is you're gonna sell Marcella too, and he's like, huh? And she's like, Dorn, and it's Pycelle, he's the bastard. So yeah. So it's fun. I don't know how effective it is. He essentially alienates himself from most court doing that, but I mean, he finds out about Pycelle, and then Pycelle goes on to confess a lot more. But yeah, so Timett and Bronn accompany him to Tyrion to confront Pycelle. Tyrion orders Timett to cut off Pycelle's manhood and feed it to the goats. See, that's a Shaga thing, not a Timett thing. Show Timett points out that there are no goats nearby, and Tyrion says, "Make do," which, yeah. Shaga thing, not Timett thing. Tyrion settles for shortening his beard and confronting him and confining him to the black cells. That's it. That's all we got for Timett, son of Timett in the show. So we're moving right back to book stuff. Timett is a red hand, which is a type of war chief, which I already said, of the Birdmen, one of the most feared in the Vale mountain clans in the Mountain of the Moon. He is commonly known as Timett, son of Timett, after his father, who also was called Timett. And yeah, so this guy is also called Timett, son of Timett, is also called Timett One-Eye because he has one eye. We'll get to that. Timett is tall, fierce, with a burned out left eye, which has been left an empty pit. He is not yet 20 years of age, so he's still super young in the books. And I know they call him young in the show, but that guy. Let's say his name again. Tobias Winter. Yeah, that guy could be late 20s, early 30s, maybe, with that amazing beard he's rocking. It's kind of hard to tell. He's not even 20 yet. He's a teenager. During his right of manhood for his clan, so instead of a finger or a nipple, right, he burned out. He burned one of his eye sockets out with a hot knife. Because of the typical sacrifice being a nipple or a finger, or if you're truly mad, an ear, this impressed the clan elders, and they immediately named him a red hand of the tribe. Timett was young for the position, but inspired fear among his fellow clansmen. Timett was so intimidating that even the hardened Bronn kept a respectful tongue around Timett. Yeah, we'll get to when Bronn's around, but he's I don't want to mess with Timett. Dude, he's crazy. If a man was mad enough to put out his own eye, he is likely not gentle with his enemies. Right? Timett enjoys games like dice and tiles. That's super relevant. I put that in there. But no, we're going to see whenever Timett's not burning his eyeball out or doing tribe stuff, he's gaming. He's rolling them dice, man. He likes to play games. He likes to gamble. It's his thing. So yeah, I think I had one more thing I was gonna say, but yeah. The comment on it, a man who's mad enough to cut out his own eye, burn out his own eye, what's he gonna do with his enemies? Yeah, absolutely. If you mess with a dude who's punches himself before a fight, it's dude, if you're just going to do that to yourself, you're probably going to tear my brain out. What are you doing? Yeah, no, Timett's scary. Just knowing that you mutilate your own self, cutting out your eye. Also, that backfires, right? Because I'm blind mostly blind in one eye. It's why I wear glasses, but one of my eyes is way worse than the other. If you like see, that one's barely magnified, that one's like super. This eye is like super blind. I've suffered with bad hand-eye coordination. My handwriting is really bad. I can't really play a lot of sports because of this. Even though I wear glasses, I'm a very slow reader. I have a lot of like problems that and it's fine. I'm okay with it. I work through it. You know, we all have our burdens, but like, I'm just a little blind in that eye, and it's caused me that much strife. This dude burned his eyeball out on purpose. You destroyed so much of your hand-eye coordination, and you're a warrior. You're not going to be able to get flanked on that side. Like, it would be like, wow, he burned out his eye. That shows a lot of balls. But, I mean, I don't want you to be in charge. You burned out your own eye. Imagine like one guy wants to one-up him, and he burns both his eyes, and they're like, hey, I mean, that's impressive, but you're not very useful for us anymore. Timett got half there. I don't know why. I would never wish that upon my enemies, let alone do it myself. Like knowing what I know about having one eye more blind than the other, you're just completely blinding it. Oh. All right. So Tyrion's clansmen. So now we're getting into the books. Timett joins the group of the Vale Mountain clansmen who choose to follow Tyrion. Did I say Tyrion joins? Timett joins. Yeah. Sorry. Too many T names. Timett and Tyrion and Tywin. Yeah, it's just too much. So he chooses to follow Tyrion Lannister. That's all I'm getting at. To join the army of Lord Tywin Lannister. The raid group that followed Tyrion was near 300 Stone Crows, Moon Brothers, Black Ears, and Burned Men when they spot Tywin's group, right? Tyrion picked a small group to go with him, including Timett, Chella, daughter of Check of the Black Ears, Shaga, who I've covered in Khan of the Storm Crows, and Ulf of the Moon Brothers. Though the others paired up and rode together, Timett rode alone. Yeah, he's a strong silent type, like Gary Cooper. They ride through the large camp and find Tywin at the end of the crossroads. Tyrion leaves the mountain clansmen outside, and he finds the Warden of the West, his dad Tywin, drinking wine with his brother Kevin. The Lannisters all talk and trade underhanded comments. They're kind of jerks to each other until Shaga crashes through the door and the others come in, and then they all get called savages by Kevin. Chella was asked which one the Lion Lord, not the Lightning Lord, a completely different guy, the Lion Lord is, and Timett answers, they are both old men. It's true. Kevin almost pulls out his sword, but Tywin stops him and calls them honored guests. Yeah, Tywin's super nice to these guys. Probably because they're crazy savages and he's not an idiot. Tyrion introduces the clansmen one by one, and when he gets to our boy, he says, and here is Timett, son of Timett, red hand of the burned men. Tyrion stands and says, even in the West, we know the prowess of the warrior clans of the Mountains of the Moon. What brings you down from your strongholds, my lord? Yeah, so, my lords. So, Tywin's super nice to them, which I think, we always kind of think of Tywin as a complete asshole, because he is. He's kind of a complete jerk, right? But he's also a really good politician. So, when he runs into people who he thinks he can use, he probably talks crap about the Mountain or Amory Lorch behind their back. We know that he does. He calls them the dogs. They're savage dogs, blah, 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 blah. But when he's talking to these guys, he's probably really nice and makes them feel respected because he's a politician. He's using people. And we see that straight up right here when he's like, no, we're not going to be mean to these guys. We're going to manipulate them so they help us fight the Starks, right? So, yeah. Battle on the Green Fork. I've always said battle at the Green Fork for so long, and it's on the Green Fork. Oof. All right. Shaga says, Shaga answers. So this is answering the question. So what brings you down from your strongholds? And Shaga says horses, and Timett says a promise of silk and steel. But before the conversation can continue, a messenger comes in with the news that the Stark army is moving down the causeway. Tywin asks them to ride with the men against the Northmen, or ride with his men against the Northmen. And the men of the Westerlands are made, or the men of the Winterlands are made of iron and ice. Even my boldest knights fear them. And Timett answers the challenge saying, the Birdmen fear nothing. Timett, son of Timett, will ride with lions. And then all the other clan leaders join in. So this was another bit of Tywin manipulating where he knows to get them to want to join this fight. If he goes like, well, I mean, we're going to fight guys from the north. Nobody can beat them. And then these guys are like, what? We can? Yeah. Like they took that bait really easy, you know? So during the battle on the Green Fork, Tywin and the clansmen were part of the vanguard on the left, commanded by Gregor Clegane. In the heart of the battle, Tyrion glimpsed Timett, son of Timett, vault free of his mount that died under him in full stride. After the fighting ends, Timett and the Birdmen are looting the bodies of the slain. Of the 300 clansmen that rode in the battle behind Tyrion, perhaps half survived. Tyrion gets named acting hand by his father, and he goes to King's Landing, and Timett follows him among other clansmen, right? So here we go. So far, it's pretty close. Little changes, right, from the show. But yeah, now we're going up to King's Landing. Burned man in the big city. Once in King's Landing, Tyrion, Timett. Wait. Yeah, once at King's Landing, no, it is Tyrion, waits outside the small council chamber, and Sir Mandon Moore, who I'm actually going to cover very soon, insists that Queen Cersei has left orders not to be disturbed. So Tyrion has Timett and Bronn with him, and though Jaime once told Tyrion that Mandon Moore is the most dangerous of the Kingsguard, he knew that he could probably kill the knight, but no, it wouldn't bode well. Like, yeah, like, I got Bronn, I got Timett. I could probably take this guy. Like, these guys could probably kill him, but it's like, yeah, but I'm murdering a Kingsguard. It probably won't really look good for my cause, right? So he introduces Timett and Bronn to the Kingsguard knight and eventually gets in. He's like, oh, do you know my crazy one-eyed man? And then Bronn, can we get through, please? So skipping ahead now. While gambling at the Street of Silver, Timett catches a wine seller's son cheating at tiles. Timett pins the man's wrist down to the table with a dagger and rips his throat out barehanded. Sick, yeah, absolutely sick. Timett travels, so we keep skipping ahead because like we don't spend a lot of time with him. We kind of hear what Timett and the other clansmen are up to the entire time. So it's just, I'm kind of jumping chapter to chapter and paragraph to paragraph when we get a little bit of what they're doing, right? Timett travels with Tyrion to visit the guild hall of the alchemists, though he stays up in the cellar after he feels how cold it is down in the vaults where all the wildfire are. After coming back up from the vaults, Tyrion leaves with Timett and an escort of burned men, and Tyrion realizes the irony of bringing them to the Alchemist Guild to get wildfire. Yeah, that's super funny. He's like, well, I really picked the burned men. Like, I picked a rather appropriate group. I got the burned men as I go and check out wildfire. Yeah, I think it's pretty funny. Planning on confronting Grandmaster Pycelle after tricking him in that little scheme I brought up earlier, right? Tyrion needs muscle, so he finds Timett dicing at the barracks and tells him to meet him in the solar at midnight. Timett gave him a hard one-eyed stare and a curt nod. Yeah, that's it. He's like, hey, man, meet me. We're going to go do some nefarious stuff. And he's like, he was he was not one for long speeches. Yeah, he's not a talker, this guy. No. Timett's not much of a talker. Wake up call. After feasting with the clansmen and not drinking for once, Tyrion takes Shagga and Timett to visit the Grand Maester. Shagga kicks the door down and then hacks it down with an axe. So this is exactly the scene that we talked about before where they're breaking in on Maester Pycelle, right? Shagga walks in, Timett followed, and then Tyrion stepping over the splinters. When Timett where am I? When Timett ripped the heavy curtains off the bed, the naked serving girl stared up with wide white eyes. She pleads not to get hurt and it cringes away from Shaga when she tries to cover herself. Tyrion tells her to go and they don't want her. Shaga claims that he wants her. Shaga wants her. And Timett complains. Then Timett says, and I'm not a big fan of this word, but I'm quoting Timett here. So yeah. Shaga's like, I want her. And Timett goes, Shaga wants every whore in the city of whores. Shaga, I always say it both ways. Shaga agrees, and Tyrion tells Timett to see her out gently. The Birdman pulled the girl up from the bed and half marched, half dragged her across the chamber. And the girl stumbled out of the shattered door and out into the hall, helped along by a firm shove by Timett. And above their heads, Pycelle's ravens were screeching. Yeah, it's very chaotic, this scene. The Grand Maester was naked and denies that he betrayed Tyrion. Tyrion tells Shaga to chop off Pycelle's manhood and feed it to the goats. And so that's, like I said, this scene, they do this scene in the show, which I already covered. And instead of having Timett there as well, and Shaga, they just left Shaga out. I'm assuming the actor doesn't make it up to season 2, and then has Timett kind of do both parts, and they show Timett his lines, right? So that's kind of like really the real major difference so far. So where was I? So yeah, he tells Shaga to chop off Pycelle's manhood and feed it to the goats. Pycelle wets the bed, and Shaga cuts his beard off instead. Tyrion asks Timett if the Maester will tell the truth, and Timett says, he will tell the truth soon. I can smell the stink of his fear. Oh, geez, it's hardcore. Darkness pooled in the empty pit of Timett's burned eye. Oh, I bet. It's a little scary, actually. Pycelle confesses to spying for Cersei and betraying Aerys II and not helping Robert. Yeah, he does all the confessions. He's like, cuts his beard off, and he's like, so? And he's like, so I betrayed Aerys II and got him killed, and then I helped Cersei kill Robert and Jon Arryn. Wait, what are we talking about? He confesses to all of it. Well, all right, he didn't help her. He thought he was helping Cersei kill Jon Arryn. Yeah. All right, before the Blackwater, Sansa is called before Joffrey to pay for her brother Robb Stark's latest victory, which is horrendous. Sansa is being beaten by Boris Blount when Tyrion arrives. Tyrion shames his nephew and Boris Blount that no men he shames his nephew, and then Boris Blount tells him that no man threatens the king. Tyrion tells Bronn and Timett to kill him the next time Boros opens his mouth. He scolds Joffrey some more and has Bronn and Timett bring her to the Tower of the Hand. So then he goes up to the Tower of the Hand and he offers her to sleep there with Timett and other clansmen guarding her, but she refuses and leaves. And then he has her escorted back to her chambers at Mayor's Holdfast, right? In preparation for Stannis Baratheon's arrival in King's Landing, Tyrion sends Timett and his birdmen to the Kingswood to harass and harry Stannis's march. He later also sends the Blackears, Moon Brothers and Stonecrows. So he sends the other clansmen too, eventually. But birdmen he sends first. Timett attempts to return to King's Landing to serve Tyrion, but is driven off because of Tyrion's injury. So yeah, after the Battle of Blackwater, Tyrion is injured and he's like in a coma. And then when he wakes up, he finds out that Timett tried to come back into the city, but they did not allow him, right? He and his birdmen instead return to the Mountains of the Moon, where they're plunder from Stannis Baratheon's camps at the Blackwater. So yeah, let's get back. So return to the Vale. When Sandor Clegane attempts to enter the mountains to travel to the Eyrie, he is warned off by locals, one of whom states that the burned men are fearless since Timett One-Eye came back from the war. So yeah, the burned men are back, and they are acting way more fearless or way more hardcore. And the possibly are going to do something super bold. So there is like a wedding going on up there in Winds of Winter. So a lot of people think, I don't have this later on as a theory or a prediction or anything, but a lot of people think that the Burnmen, because they're growing bold since Timett went and fought in the war and fought in King's Landing, and now he's like, no, nothing can stop me, that maybe they're going to attack this tourney for the Brotherhood of Winged Knights that's going on at the Gates of the Moon. So that's one possibility because Timett's acting way more hardcore now. So yeah, during the trial for Tyrion, a trial of Tyrion for the death of King Joffrey, before his trial of combat, Tyrion briefly thinks about having Timett fight for him, but he knows Timett, son of Timett, would likely be back at the Mountains of the Moon by now. And during the trial, Tyrion's lover Shay, and then, oh yeah, there you go. I don't know why I said it like those two are connected, but yeah, he's like, well, maybe Timett can fight for me. And it's like, he's probably already back in the Mountains of the Moon. So then during this trial, Timett's lover Shay tells the court that Tyrion threatened to give her to Timett and Shaga if she didn't pleasure him. She claims that Tyrion had ordered Timett and Shaga to forcefully bring her to Tyrion after the Battle of the Green Fork. In actuality, she was a willing camp follower found by Bronn. So yeah, she definitely lies a lot at the trial, and it doesn't bode well. So yeah. So there you guys go. Let's get into the major differences and then some theories. And first, a thank you. So this is a request from I Forgot My Name. Thank you. I was hesitant because I covered Shaga not too long ago, but they are different enough, kinda, right? They're fine. So first, they come in at the exact same time. The scene at the Lannister camp is slightly different, but not very different. It gets to the point, you know, like they don't bust in the show. They just get brought in. It's a lot more, seems a lot more courteous. So we missed the Battle of the Green Fork on the show, so we don't know how he acts during it. So we don't get that scene of action that he has in the Battle of the Green Fork because we miss it because Tyrion gets knocked out right away. So our POV gets knocked out. Also, he is seen less in King's Landing, though they do have him with for the attack on Pycelle, but they give him Shaga's lines. Besides that, we don't hear about him attacking Stannis in the Kingswood or his return to the Vale. But compared to the others, they did stay pretty true to the book counterpart compared to a lot of others. Like, this seems not too far, right? So now a fast theory that Timett might be the heir to the Vale. The first time I heard this was when I watched Alt-Shift-X's video, will Timett the Vale? Will Timett earn the Vale? I don't remember the name of it. Inherit the Vale, probably. Here, give me a sec. Sorry, I had to go check because I gave myself a typo. Will Timett rule the Vale? And this video is from 2016, so 9 years ago now by the time of me filming this. I'm not sure where it originated, but the first time I heard it was here on Alt-Shift-X. The theory is that he is the son of Alice Arryn, Jon's sister, the one who went missing, right? Making him the uncle of Harry Harding, so more legitimate than Harry Harding, and the heir of Robert. But I don't see this as a likely since he wouldn't be considered legitimate. If at best he would be considered a bastard, right? So yeah, I don't think there's anything to stand on. I think it's kind of interesting if that's true. Like, oh, and Timett's like Jon Arryn's nephew. Like, whoa, that's crazy. I don't think that's going to actually change anything politically in the Vale. It might just be like an interesting thing for us to know. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Guys. Thank you for bearing with me. A little tired this morning, filming this in the morning. So I will be sure to put the link to the Alt-Shift-X Will Timett Rule the Vale video in the description. And what did you think of Timett, son of Timett? Is he a cool character? You like him? And yeah, and thank you again. I forgot my name for the request. And I'll drop that Alt-Shift-X Timett video in the description. Peace.